I don't know about y'all, but at this point in my life, I am at my wit's end at how overly complicated and overly complex everything in life has become. And I think this is all by design. Everything seems to be meant to overwhelm our senses so that we just throw our hands up and give up. I think that's the society we're living in, because everything that is even the most basic, fundamental thing is complicated. You think about something like feeding ourselves, for crying out loud. We can't agree on what to eat. It takes hours-long podcasts. It takes all of this discourse and all these apps and all this technology, all this tracking, these mathematical formulas. You have to figure out your eating window, and you got to time things perfectly, and you can't eat this, but you can't eat that. It is absolutely absurd how something as simple and as fundamental and as necessary as feeding ourselves has become. Think about if this were the case for any other species on the planet. If it was, that species would cease to exist. They would basically go extinct, because if you can't feed yourself, you can't survive. But luckily, we have a little bit more of a sophisticated brain, and we can figure out that we do need to eat something, so we eat stuff. But it is just so overwhelmingly complicated. Nutrition, health, basically everything in life. A lot of these things should be very intuitive. We should be able to just do it, just like every other species on the planet. We shouldn't even have to think about it. It should be as simple as breathing. It should be as simple as our heart beating. But here we are arguing over what to eat. Here we are arguing over how to improve our health, or how to basically live life. Because living life is another thing that should be very intuitive. We shouldn't really have to think about it. But all of life has become very overly complicated. And that is the reason why everything is so hard to figure out, because even something as simple as walking into a room and flipping a light switch on to turn on the lights in your house has now become extremely complicated. You can't do that, because now you have to have an app and you have to have a subscription. That way you can turn your light on from 1,000 miles away. You can't just walk into a room anymore and flip the switch. We now have Google Nest, and we have Alexa, and we have all these AI and virtual assistants to help us out through our lives, because life is just too hard now. We can't walk it alone, so we have to bring all this technology into our lives and overcomplicate everything. This has bled into everything from houses to cars. You think about cars now, it went from being 4 wheels and an engine to now being 4 wheels and an engine and a million different moving parts. Everything is fly-by-wire now, and if something breaks, you have to call in a team of engineers to fix the thing. And even the engineers and the mechanics don't like working on these vehicles, because I know a lot of them, and they can't stand it, because everything is very, very difficult to work on. And I know that's by design, because the car manufacturers have realized that we don't really want people working on their own cars, because we can't profit from that. So let's make things to where the average consumer has to call the dealer. They have to call a technician or a mechanic to work on their vehicle. Long gone are the days where you could go to the parts yard and get something off a junk car and swap it out. You can't do that anymore. I know that because I work on vehicles quite a bit, and I refuse to buy a new vehicle for these reasons, because everything is unnecessarily complex. But if you really think about it, we have actually walked ourselves off this cliff, because this has been sold to us in a way that made us believe that all this technology and all this complication is actually going to simplify our lives. It's going to make our lives easier. We'll be able to work less if you adopt this thing. But what we are now finding is that that is not the case, because once these oligarchs and these people at the top and these corporations realize that they could pair technology with having people work more and with having them work harder, they realize that they could no longer 2x their profits from doing that. They could 10x them. So that is what they have done. All of this stuff that was supposed to help us out is now actually degrading, I would say, society in general, because it is 100% making things more complicated. It's making our lives more difficult. It's adding unnecessary stress and burden to our lives. It's causing us to have to work more. It's causing us to have to strive for more. Because one bad thing about having to adopt all this technology and all these conveniences is all these things also cost money. Just like I mentioned, you have to pay a subscription, or you have to download an app if you want to turn your lights on. Refrigerators went from keeping stuff cold to now giving you a synopsis of the evening news. There's a TV built in. Washing machines went from cleaning things to now you have to walk in there and you have to tune 15 or 20 different dials and turn these knobs and this knob. It's almost like you're tuning an instrument, like you're getting ready to play Beethoven's Last Symphony, so that it can sing you a song when it's done washing your clothes. And it probably won't be long before washing machines start folding them, and you don't even have to do anything. You just put your clothes in the chute, and it does everything for you. And if it breaks, it's probably going to take an act of God to fix that thing, and some very deep pockets. Nothing is cut and dry anymore. If you want to walk into the grocery store or the supermarket and capitalize on using a coupon because something is on sale, you can't even do that anymore. You can't just take scissors and cut it out of a magazine or the newspaper like you used to. You have to download the app, and then you have to clip the digital coupon, and then you have to scan your retina. They have to take your fingerprints. They have to prick your finger and take some blood samples. You have to sign over your firstborn child, and then you have to sell your soul in order to use that coupon. That is basically the society we have created around ourselves. We have created a digital and a physical prison around what is termed as convenience, or what is sold to us as convenience, but it is actually complication. It has gotten so bad today that if you want to change your light bulb, you can't even do that anymore. Because now, instead of just throwing a ladder down, walking up on the ladder, unscrewing the light bulb and putting a new one in, now you have to know what kind of light bulb you have. Does it have a ballast? Because if it has a ballast, it could not be the light bulb at all. Maybe it's tied into your Google Nest. And if that's the case, maybe your app isn't working. Maybe your subscription ran out. Maybe you have to delete the app and re-download it. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it doesn't even plug in like a traditional light bulb. Maybe it's not incandescent. Maybe it's LED, and maybe it's a bar. So maybe you have to undo the wiring and change your entire configuration in order to change that light bulb. Maybe it can't be changed at all because maybe it's integrated. Things have gotten completely out of hand and completely absurd when it comes to this, and this has bled into everything, even down to relationships and how we communicate with one another. Because that dynamic, social interaction, it is completely changed. It is now overly complicated. You can't just walk up to a woman now and say, "I think you're pretty. Would you like to go out sometime?" Because now you have to navigate through a minefield of deeply rooted trauma, all these warped senses of self-worth and entitlement, the general disdain for the opposite sex, and trying your very best to avoid being blasted online and on social media for telling someone that you're attracted to them. The entire landscape of life has completely changed, and it has left us feeling inadequate. It has left us feeling tired, exhausted, depleted, and it is degrading our spirit. But the beautiful thing about this, and the silver lining here, is that this is causing a lot of people to perk up and take notice. People are realizing that life is in fact overly complicated. And for those of us that grew up in the generations before all this stuff became very complicated, we really realized it because we knew what the old life was like. We knew what it was like to live a simpler life, and that is causing people to get back to that. People are waking up in droves, and they are doing everything they can to live that simpler life. People are reaching out and searching for more tangible, real things. They're getting back to buying DVDs. This is something I've heard a lot of people talking about. They're getting back to buying records. That's something that was kind of going out whenever I was growing up. My parents had a record player, but it's coming back. Polaroid cameras, 35mm film, getting back to physical connection and face-to-face interaction. All of these things make life more meaningful. It allows you to create memories that last a lifetime, because in today's modern world, we're so distracted and inundated with all of this noise and all of this complexity that our mind can't keep up. We cannot form long-term memories anymore, and that causes time to just pass by. Your life disappears in the blink of an eye, and you don't even remember it. But by getting back to the simpler ways of doing things, by reconnecting with the natural world around us, by reconnecting with other people, by doing things in life that allow you to create these meaningful and memorable experiences, doing what all the other species on the planet do, and tuning back into our intuition, and realizing that most of the answers to life have already been programmed into us. People are waking up and realizing that this is the way to stop allowing yourself to be controlled and your life dictated by all of these complexities.